KLYC, and that's how the coffee brews this morning on the radio station. Let's go to the second phone line, and let's talk to Marc Shelton. And Marc, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you, Dave.
Are you a coffee drinker?
A little bit, yeah. I had a couple of our kids work for a company and got a little bit of a pipeline through them into the coffee. So, yes, I will drink a cup here and there.
There we go. Here's tip of the cup of the old coffee this morning. So Marc is running for position 3. Mary Starrett, Deborah Bridges are the other candidates in the race. Marc, why are you running for county commissioner?
Well, I really wanted to have a chance to extend the service that I had been able to do in Newburgh on the city council and with the Yamhill County Commission on Children and Families, and look for a way to contribute at the county level. And so the commissioner position number 3 seat was one that interested me, especially with Mary Stern announcing her early resignation, and just really felt I have skills and talents that I can contribute to leadership at the county level.
What are the big issues affecting the county right now, as you see it? Well,
I said in an open forum that we had earlier in April that normally the bypass has been the number one issue, and it is kind of nice to realize that the work that many people did around getting that bypass approved and the congressional delegations work. I think we're going to see pavement, on the ground in 2016, and cars and trucks using that bypass. So, it's a great situation for the county in the sense that isn't the priority year after year after year. But that being said, I think there are transportation issues that we need to continue to look at that are beyond the bypass, and that means that we have to be able to move people, goods, and services in all areas of the county on all types of roads. So the amount of money that we need to invest in infrastructure, in transportation, our bus transit opportunities for people who don't have cars to drive on our roads, that type of thing, is an important aspect of transportation. I think economic development is an important piece for Yamhill County. We saw a successful rock crushing company come into Sheridan in the last couple of years, and we want to keep some momentum going there. But I think anytime you talk about economic development, you have to start first with education and the importance of education and preparing our children and adults to work in roles that they want to do, and things that they want to do well. And then I think finally the area around economic development is somewhat dependent on our access to good water resources for businesses, agriculture, hotels, those type of things that want to come in and strengthen Yamhill County's economic base.
As far as economic development, are we doing as much as we could? Are there areas that we need to do a little bit better job in? What's your take?
Well, from what I understand, I think the people that have been working on Grow Yamhill County and the website, looking at the point where people can come and get information about Yamhill County on the website is an important first step. You can get there from here. That slogan that especially Mary Stern has talked about is an important first step. But I think we have to continue to work with cities and economic planners from around the 10 cities in Yamhill County to be able to have developers that they're able to take the next step, and that the website isn't just a nice looking first entry into Yamhill County, but that a business that wants to relocate in our county knows the next step that they can take, and that's very transparent, not just on the website, but in anybody that they talk to in one of our cities or at the county level.
What's your position, speaking of economic development, what's your position on Wallace Bridge?
Well, I don't know a lot about it, and part of my information that I have is through the town hall that Senator Wyden participated in. I do think that because of the federal issue around the wetlands and land use that the Natural Resources Conservation Services have been involved in, it takes it somewhat out of a local Willamina County, Yamhill County, or a Oregon state level. I think the role that we end up playing as elected officials is influencing these agencies at the federal level and giving input and making sure that the process that landowners have to go through is a fair process. And I think also, touching on the other part of economic development, Yamhill County isn't the only county in the state that's affected by land use rules. And in this case, it's a federal agency. But in other cases of economic development, sometimes cities and counties have our hands tied of being able to attract the type of business that we want to have in Yamhill County because of the land use laws. And so I think Yamhill County and the role of the commissioners will be right there with other counties in the state as state legislature reconsiders the effect of those land use policies and providing a balance between agriculture, manufacturing, and tourism that are all important areas for Yamhill County.
Do you think land use planning laws, and I guess let me just ask a broad question.
Sure.
Is Oregon business friendly, and is Yamhill County business friendly?
Well, obviously, we're business friendly when you can point to the type of businesses that we have, not only in Yamhill County, but we've maintained relationships with those businesses to stay in Yamhill County. I think it's important in this whole process of attracting business into Yamhill County is to provide them the infrastructure that they need, the roads, the access to good water, and that includes storage of water as well as just well fields and that type of issue around the water use and water access. And I know Kathy George is looking at convening a group later on in May to kind of take the next step with specifically with the issue of the infrastructure that water provides for businesses. So I think, yes, we're business friendly. It doesn't take much, though, for that to tip the other way. And again, it's that balance between our historic heritage around agriculture, around manufacturing. The Austins, I can speak specifically within the city of Newburgh. They are not just effective business owners in their industry, but they are very vital to the life of Newburgh, the community of Newburgh. And so they've invested not only from a business standpoint, but also in the community of Newburgh and surrounding Yamhill County as well as Portland. And that's just one example of many businesses that we need to continue to attract to Yamhill County and to give them the support that they need to stay in Yamhill County and grow in Yamhill County.
Do you think Yamhill County government is transparent enough to the electorate, and there's enough ample opportunity for the people to have their input into local government decision-making process, or is there something we need to do to increase that access?
Well, it's interesting in this campaign. There are both people who want to be informed voters and just people that are interested in campaigning want to talk about these big issues, but really the work of the city government and county government is the day-to-day work that takes place in the chamber rooms. And I think what we can do to be more transparent with those day-to-day decisions is look for ways to not just have it the focus of the work of the commission is just that McMinnville chamber office, that type of thing, or the chambers of the county commission. I think we can do more by getting into the communities, even doing something similar to what the Supreme Courts and other courts have done around Oregon, is spending some time in other communities and convening the commission for the purpose of doing the business that is kind of regular day in, day out type stuff, not these big hot points or anything like that. It's just making sure that the county is functioning well, but then taking some time in those meetings to look at the specific issues that are really important to those people in one of our 10 cities in Yamhill County. So it's a matter of not doing all of our business behind closed doors. You know, we have open meeting laws and all that. I'm not suggesting that the current commission is operating in keeping us in the dark. I'm just saying there's things that we can do to be more visible, to be more responsive to the people that we are serving as a county commissioner.
Medical marijuana dispensaries. There's a couple things we want to talk about. Medical marijuana dispensaries, one. Second Amendment or gun rights. There's a lot of that in the news. The folks that we talk to want to know where their sheriff's candidates are, and they've all been very, very forward on where they are on that. But we're also asking the commissioner candidates where they are on the issue of medical marijuana dispensaries and Second Amendment. Let's talk about the medical marijuana dispensaries first. What's your position on the dispensaries?
Well, I hope we make decisions at the state level around medical marijuana and the dispensaries specifically. I hope we continue to make those at the state level, because I don't think we want a situation where each individual county or each individual city government sets the rules around marijuana dispensaries. That being said, I think what the state legislature provided, because things were not certain in this session, is that as long as the city or county government took action by May 1st, it allowed time for making better decisions and making informed decisions. And I think it was very wise of the state legislature to allow for that moratorium, that one-year moratorium period. And I think the more that we have a chance to really think deeply about the issue of how we want to dispense marijuana for people who need that to control pain, but at the same time make sure that we're not increasing the accessibility of an illegal drug in the state of Oregon at this point to minors or to people from a mental capacity or mental handicap. We want to make sure that it's dispensed right. I know a lot of discussion has been around the idea, if this is medical marijuana, why isn't it being dispensed through pharmacists? And I think that's a good point. There's some consideration of why do we need storefronts to dispense marijuana. So I think that's, the moratorium is very healthy, and I thought it was great from the commissioners who responded that they took the opportunity to take more time and make good decisions, because I think right now it is a very fuzzy law and a fuzzy process for these medical marijuana dispensaries.
Let's say it's not now the case, but if an option is presented to the commission, and let's say you're elected to the commission, and you have the option of allowing storefronts to continue or simply dispensing marijuana at pharmacists, and let's say the local municipalities are given that freedom to make that choice, what would your choice be?
Well, I think if it is for the purpose of controlling pains from a medical standpoint, then a doctor and a pharmacist should be involved just as the same way as we have with any medication that's dispensed in the state of Oregon and as well as in the United States. And I do think ultimately the important issue around this potential spread of illegal use of the drug is that we are, as elected officials, sworn to uphold the laws of the state of Oregon and the United States Constitution. I think in saying that, that's why it's important to take time with these decisions. So whether or not, I would say right now that we will not allow storefronts in any Yamhill County property or any. I would suggest that none of the cities allow that. That's moving way ahead of that process. But I do think what needs to happen in this year's time with the moratorium is a balanced look at the issue, and not just seeing it as a revenue stream for the state, for the counties, or whatever, but looking at it on a solid, logical decision-making process. And that takes conversations with various people, and not just my perspective of how I'd like to see it go. And I guess that kind of really explains my philosophy of leading. It's not making decisions in isolation or in the dark, as we talked about earlier. It's getting the information and the best information from as many people as possible, and then using that to make good decisions for the people of Yamhill County.
I understand that's not a decision to be made now, but we wanted to ask that theoretical question to give the people a chance to know where you stand on that issue. Let's talk about.
I think if it's medical, and that's what we want as a country is access to medical marijuana, then we need to run it through the channels that we've had for dispensing medicines.
Second Amendment, gun rights. What's your position?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in South Dakota. I'm a pretty rural, farm-influenced kid. I lived in the city and attended Vermillion Public Schools and the University of South Dakota, but had many friends and family members that hunted. So I've always been around shotguns, mainly for pheasant hunting. That is so much more than just having a gun. It's about the relationship that I had with my father out in the cornfields of South Dakota, hunting pheasants. So to me, it isn't whether or not we have firearms available. It's such a too much of a focused issue. I think if you only talk about access to handguns, because the access for me meant much more than just having access to handguns. It was access to those family things that I did with family members, with my father, the relationships that I built. That being said, I fully support the Second Amendment. Until we as a country change that, I'm committed to uphold the Second Amendment, as any sworn elected official would need to do. I think we're getting to a point sometimes where the rule of law becomes pretty fuzzy in the sense that, we'll just use that example with Wallace Bridge, where an agency can set a direction of policy. Those are not elected officials in those agencies. And so we need to have an accountability for NRCS, as an example. We need to have an accountability for any agency that's enforcing law, and including our sheriff's office in Yamhill County. And we know both with medical marijuana and with the Second Amendment issues, we're talking a potential public safety concern that we have to address in the county. We're talking how that might impact budgets within the sheriff's office, because that I think is another area that's a priority for Yamhill County is public safety.
Another theoretical question. Obviously, this is not a question. Hopefully, it will never be a question that we'll have to face. But theoretically, let's say this scenario happens where there's a move from the federal administration, whoever that may be, to disarm the citizenry. We've had the three candidates for Yamhill County Sheriff say as long as it's in the U.S. Constitution, they will not be a part or a party to help the federal government disarm its citizens. Would you back up your sheriff if they have that position?
Absolutely. I think that's the role of the commission, especially with the relatively recent restructuring of how the commission has worked. The commissioners are no longer directly supervising the department heads, and in this case, the elected sheriff. We do that through a county administrator. And I think that's been really helpful for the county to allow then each of the commissioners to take a bigger picture perspective. So you don't have just one commissioner overseeing the sheriff's department and having their voice kind of trump the other two voices in making that type of decision to support that action of our sheriff who refuses to comply with that. But there again, the hypothetical falls short when you don't have laws that change. If that's an action from an executive branch to disarm the American people, that's completely different than Congress enacting a law that then as an elected official you're required to uphold. It's not a matter of conscience at that point. We've got examples of that within our country right now with the abortion laws, for instance. It goes beyond a matter of conscience, but we also have to be, I think, in a free country with this first principle of the rule of law, we have to be willing to say there are some principles of conscience that are important. As long as they aren't violating the law, then, and unless there is a law that requires us to confiscate firearms from our citizenry, then I would very much support the sheriff's decision. And it wouldn't just be me as one commissioner making that decision, but that's the kind of the beauty of the triumvirate that is what we know as the Yamhill County Commission.
Mm-hmm.
You have three voices coming into any type of decision, and by speaking into that and thinking through that well together, discerning that decision together, reaching consensus as much as possible, and making a decision, I think that's a great process, and a process that I think has been improved by how the Commission has restructured itself.
Okay. KLYC, McMinnville, Newburgh is who you're listening to. We're listening to Marc Shelton. He's a candidate for Position 3, Yamhill County Commission. Marc, let's talk about budgets. There is a proposal out there to combine community corrections and the juvenile department. Have you had a chance to look at that? What's your opinion?
Yeah, I haven't looked at that specifically. I know just in general, I think one of the skills that I bring to the County Commissioner Position 3 election process, the primary process, and then the general election, is my knowledge of working with budgets. I, as a school administrator, worked with budgets. I also worked with about an $85 million budget in my time of service on the Newburgh City Council from 2007 to 2012. The budget of Yamhill County is, right around $99 million, and of that $99 million, there's only about $18 million of discretionary dollars. So anytime you talk about combining, and I think you could probably throw in not just the corrections and the sheriffs, but also mental health, you're talking a good percentage of the Yamhill County budget, and again, that's I think reflective of good budgeting practice is whatever your priorities are as a county. And I think our county does have a priority of quality public safety and corrections and mental health support for people who need those services. I think our amount in the budget needs to reflect that priority, and the support needs to be there for not only county employees but elected officials.
Another possible scenario, just to give the electorate a chance to get an idea about where you're coming from, Polk County has got some serious budget issues. They only have patrol deputies on the road 10 hours a day. There are times when Yamhill County deputies have to go over and cover calls in Polk County. Obviously, the state police has some budget constraints as well. Where would you come from if it became a situation where we were having to cover Polk County at the expense of providing coverage for Yamhill County?
Well, I think the sheriffs have done a good job describing this, at least the candidates that I've heard give a little more detail in their answers. There's a difference between an emergency situation and what would be there for any first responding organization, the fire or police, sheriff's office. If this is an emergency situation, mutual aid kicks in and coverage needs to be there. And so I think part of the strategy is identifying a protocol that talks through the emergency situations and those that require mutual aid, and then the other that could be just the effect of Polk County cutting their budget for patrol in the sheriff's department, and those need to be handled through intergovernmental agreements. There's a difference between an emergency and an investigation, let's say, and the emergency is mutual aid. The intergovernmental agreement needs to be there for any other services that Yamhill County deputies or through the sheriff's office decides is important. I want to bring out one other area that I think is an area of that we need to attend to relatively soon here in the county, and that's the interoperability of our communication systems. So when you're talking about this as an issue in between counties, in this case Yamhill and Polk County, that interoperability of a radio system can really prevent unnecessary trips and better communication and a better use of the services in those situations, in that scenario that you talk about. And I think right now, from what I've heard around the system, is that it's not as strong as it can be. We can't reach out in the case of a natural disaster to the range that we need to beyond Yamhill County into other counties, especially even Washington County.
Let's talk about budgets. What would your priority be for budgets? Obviously, you know, there's a certain amount of money you have. You have a number of very, very good causes and missions in the government, the county government, say, that are requiring funding. What would you use for criteria to determine who gets money? I hate to say who gets funded and who doesn't, but
sure.
As you prioritize your priorities and where you want to see programs get funded, where would that be? And give the people an idea about what your thought process is.
Well, we've been talking a lot about medical marijuana, the coverage of Polk County. You know, you can't head into a new budget year without considering the implications of those situations, those scenarios on public safety. And I think that's a priority that we need to fund. We need to support that, both our personnel and that priority. I think the other priority that we've talked about is economic development. And I think it becomes a case, there's been some discussion around the transient lodging tax. And anytime you look at a tax that, in essence, the tourists would pay as they travel into Yamhill County, just levying that tax is not the important thing. That's easy for governments to do. What's difficult for governments to do is to have the conversations of, if we have this increase in revenue, how will it improve land use for attracting business? How will it improve education in the county, that type of thing? And let me just mention, too, that another revenue stream that's out there that isn't tax, such as the transient lodging tax, is the lottery dollars that are out in our 7 public school districts. We have 2 community colleges that could partner and continue to partner with our 7 districts, especially at the high school level, to look at ways to leverage some of the dollars that come in on lottery funding, which for the Yamhill County last biennium of 2011 to 13 was approximately $14 million. And the school districts received $11 million of that, or 70%. So, you know, there's another way to leverage the budgets within to match our priorities, and education needs to be a priority, I think, in Yamhill County, and find ways that we can prepare our children who are exiting out of high school for not just college, but career-ready roles within Yamhill County businesses and be productive citizens, and also be good wage earners as well. So, you know, I think those priorities are reflected in any budget, and public safety, improving our transportation and the moving of people, goods, and services, economic development, and definitely the perspective that the more that we can do educationally for citizens in the county, it's good for children and it's good for families.
We're talking to Marc Shelton, one of the 3 candidates for position 3 in Yamhill County for the office of a commissioner. Let's take 2 or 3 minutes now, Mark, and as they look at the ballot, the vote-by-mail ballot, and they look at the name Marc Shelton, what do you want them to think of when they see your name on the ballot? What will you stand for? Why should they vote for you?
Well, I think what I've demonstrated in my service in Newburgh on the City Council is I'm a good listener. I have skills around leadership. That's the role that I've done at George Fox for the past 14 years, and had been a public school administrator starting in Oregon in '93 when our family moved to Oregon. So I think those skills around understanding governmental budgets and understanding working with labor organizations within Yamhill County, I think that's an important skill that I've picked up in my work in public schools in the state of Oregon. I think ultimately what you'll find is I have a philosophy that it's a government of and by the people. It's not the elected officials making decisions in isolation, but it's finding ways to hear what people want. And so I promise that I'll listen to you. It's also, I think what you'll find in me is a person who is very much a hard worker. The roles that I've had within the city and the county, I've worked hard in, dedicated, to be a good volunteer. In all of those situations, it was volunteer roles. This is a little different on the commission, as moving into a paid position, and I understand that. But I also understand that it's not a matter of just being in government, but it's also understanding government and understanding that it's ultimately the people that you're working for. And so I promise to work for you. And I think ultimately I'm for life. I look at that from conception to when we naturally leave this earth. And so anything that I do in my role of a city leader or a county leader, or as a father or employee at George Fox University, has this element of I want the best for the people that I'm working with, and to be able to put a condition together, help them create an environment and a condition where they can thrive in their life. And that is my position. I'm for life, and what comes with that through people working together for shared goals.
Mark, do you have a website or Facebook page?
Yeah, I have a email address that I can give you. I have not set up Facebook or Twitter accounts or anything like that. I'm just getting my positions out to people as I've had opportunities to chat with them. My direct email, and I will promise to answer your emails within 24 hours, is Shelton, Shelton, for Commissioner 3 at hotmail.com. Again, that's Shelton for Commissioner 3 at hotmail.com, and you can email me at any time. And then also my direct phone number that you can reach me at, and again, I will respond to you within 24 hours, if not immediately, 503-538-6355.
Mark, we know you're busy, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule and visiting with us this morning and talking to the folks of Yamhill County about why you want to be the next county commissioner.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to do this from southern Michigan over the phone, Dave. It's been really helpful for Kelly and my schedule as we're back here to attend our youngest daughter's graduation from Hillsdale College here in southern Michigan. So I appreciate the time to talk with you and to have a chance to communicate with your listeners a little bit.
We'll give her our best, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your vote.
And have a good day.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye. AM 1260 KLYC, and Marc Shelton talking to us via telephone today. Also on our website, KLYC.us. We have taken an extra effort to put the statements from the voters pamphlet there. The interviews that we've done with the candidates will be posted there as well as some other statements that we have gotten from the candidates outside of the voters pamphlet will be posted there as well, KLYC.us. And just simply go to news and election news, and you'll find interviews. You'll find the two forums for commissioner and sheriff, and you will find, for example, the replay of this interview will be there as well on a podcast. Simply click on the link here in just a few moments. Also, all of these interviews are being put on a loop feed on KLYC News Channel, which is one of the 8 feeds we have on our website. We have a number of different formats of music: jazz, big band, 2 country formats, rock, and a Southern gospel format now. And one of the options is KLYC News Channel. Right now we're just playing in a continuous loop all of these interviews we do with the commissioners and the sheriff's candidates, and you can listen to those as well. We want to give a big shout out to Online Northwest. Now, online, we've been having one of the challenges we've had with the radio station and putting the radio station back on the air, and we've had some technical challenges, shall we say, in the last 6 months. By the way, June 28th will be the 1-year anniversary of KLYC going back on the air, and we'll do something special on that day. But one of the challenges we've had has been with the telephone service. We've gone through 4 different telephone companies. Online Northwest is now the internet service provider for KLYC Radio, and they're also the phone service provider for KLYC. And I have to tell you that we would give them, on a scale of 1 to 10, we would give them a 12 right now. Their service has been exemplary. It works. It's worked from day one. We haven't had any problems with it. And we could write a book on some of the other companies that we've dealt with that we won't name right now. But Online Northwest definitely has our stamp of approval and our thanks for being there and providing a good quality service for internet and also for phone service. They do a great job, and as you just heard in this phone call, there was not a glitch number one at all in it. And some of the interviews who've been listening to KLYC in the past months, we've had lots of phone issues. But thanks to Online Northwest, that's been fixed. So thank you very much. We definitely use their service and encourage you take a look at their service if you're looking for phone service or internet service as well. Their service to us has been exemplary, first rate, and we strongly and highly recommend them if you're looking for those services.